Obviously, I'm a conspiracy girly, and I'm thrilled that we get to dive a little bit deeper on this topic for those of you that don't know. The first thing that I want to remind you guys is exactly what I said at the top of the show. It is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly. I showed you guys that text message exchange. I said to him in response that I didn't feel the same way and that I thought I was from another planet, that I was an alien my entire life. Just do not get it here. This planet is ghetto. That's how I feel.
Candace Owens says Charlie Kirk is a time traveler. Not metaphorically, not sarcastically, not, quote, wow, he's ahead of the curve. No, an actual time traveler. And according to Candace, there are texts, receipts, proof, evidence that will totally explain everything eventually. Now listen, Candace may see herself as the investigator, but today we're the inspectors. This is not a reaction video. This is not a vibes check. This is Regina Reviews the Record. But when claims start sounding like a deleted episode of Ancient Aliens, it's time to stop applauding the performance and start auditing the paperwork. Welcome back to West Virginia Wire, where the coffee is strong and the receipts are stronger. And before we jump in feet first to today's episode, let's take a trip back in time and rewind and review who Candace Owens and what's been going on up to this point. So if you've been offline for 5 minutes, 5 days, or 5 sanity points, here's the lightning recap. Following the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a wave of speculation exploded online. Candace Owens positioned herself as the truth teller in a sea of liars. She promised revelations. She teased insider knowledge. She implied cover-ups, foreign actors, and hidden hands. And instead of narrowing the claims with evidence, the story ballooned. Bigger accusations, fewer receipts, louder certainty, until we landed here. Time travel. That's not escalation. That's derailment. All right, guys. So Candace claims Charlie Kirk told her he was a time traveler. She says there are texts. She says context will explain everything. She says critics are lying about her. But here's the first inspection standard. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Not previews, not cliffhangers, not, quote, wait until my next episode, end quote. Because once you cross into science fiction testimony, the burden of proof is no longer optional. You don't get to accuse the world of deception while asking for blind faith. That's not journalism. That's storytelling.
That is true.
And if this was a joke, say it was a joke. If it was a metaphor, explain the metaphor. If it was literal, show the evidence. Anything else is theater. The story has more plot twists than proof. If the receipts are real, print them. If they're vibes, label them. You can't call it investigative journalism when the only thing you investigated was your imagination.
The cornucopia. We may have even let you rule over us forever. We may have never woken up to anything. That's my theory, okay? It was all well and good until you guys tried to convince us that Fruit of the Loom never had a cornucopia. Never had a cornucopia.
Oh my God, what is
right?
that?
There was one. We all know that.
Oh
By the
my
way, if
God.
you're watching this and you don't
What
know
is
that, I want nothing
that?
to do with you. You're in the wrong timeline. We are not in the same timeline.
Are you dumb?
Today's going to be a very interesting episode.
Play me like a dummy, like bitch.
Philosophical
Are you
meta,
dumb? Are you dumb?
because I
Stupid,
don't
dumb.
think I will ever get over the fact that Charlie Kirk knew that he was going to die young. And I am starting to believe that so did the agents that surrounded him throughout his entire life.
And here we are. The fate of the planet is in the hands of a bunch of retards I wouldn't trust with a potato gun.
The first thing that I want to remind you guys is exactly what I said at the top of the show. It is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly. I showed you guys that text message exchange. Weird things used to happen to Charlie. He would go on runs. I think I told you guys this after sundown. And when he was running, street lights would go out. It was like he was a burst of energy, like he was a lightning bolt or something. So to slow this down for you, there are, just in general, all of these inexplicable experiences that we have in life. And they try to make it weird for us to discuss them.
What?
I want to start by saying that the way that I feel, the way that I think a lot of you feel, the vibes that are surrounding us right now is that the deep state is in some sort of a panic, right?
All right.
We've acknowledged that over and over again on the show. Something doesn't feel quite right. It feels almost like we are at the beginning of the end of a long satanic run. That's why, just so you guys know, despite the obviously sobering reality that the world is run by these people, I'm pretty optimistic every day. I can't explain it. I don't know why. Things are obviously coming apart, but things have to come apart before they can be put back together. And they're just getting sloppy. And if I could put it into a sentence, I would say that it's almost as if our awareness is the threat, right? Awareness, just our being conscious of what they are doing somehow spells their doom, which is bringing me to wanting to discuss today, as I promised you, the CIA's Looking Glass Project. Now, it is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly. I showed you guys that text message exchange. I said to him in response that I didn't feel the same way and that I thought I was from another planet, that I was an alien my entire life. Just do not get it here. This planet is ghetto. That's how I feel. I don't understand it. The rules don't make sense. I think that's also why I like cats so much. I feel that they can relate to that. They think humanity is ghetto. They don't want to be around us. They don't like us. They know it's ghetto. It is ghetto here, right?
Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, another bizarre fact is that back when Charlie and I were running around, we met in 2017, top of 2018. So I would say, obviously, Turning Point was an organization, but it wasn't the organization. It wasn't this behemoth of an organization that it became. No, he had no real degree of fame. I think that's fair. But he was required to have security on him at all times. That was orchestrated. His security, Schaefer Security, was orchestrated by Bill Montgomery. He has since passed, the late Bill Montgomery, and he was from the military. He founded Turning Point USA with Charlie. Charlie wanted to go to West Point, and then instead started Turning Point USA when he was 18 years old. Thinking about that, the security, him texting saying, "I'm not allowed to go anywhere, I feel so important," I think was the exact message. That, to me, is objectively weird in retrospect. Wasn't weird at the time, it's weird now. And it makes me think that Charlie may have been marked since he was a child. We discussed these GATE programs that they have in school. And I just think on the basis of what he told me, that when he was really young, they wanted to drug him, but his mother said no, and he was really grateful for that. And instead, they decided that they could send him to this X-Men school. That's the best way I can describe it. I would certainly, by the way, for you internet sleuth, I'd like to find out which school Charlie had to attend. So he was pulled out of regular school he was attending, and he had to go to some special school for the gifted, like he was.
Okay, so he went to an X-Men school. I was playing that on fast speed, you guys. And look at the sponsorship there. You guys, let me show you that. Look at all that. Yeah. Oh, no, that's her email address. You guys go to that for tips. And I'm just wondering, has Charlie Kirk's mother, Mrs. Kirk, confirmed any of this information or whatever she's talking about? Let's keep going.
Next man. And I am of the opinion, it's an opinion, I'm allowed to have it, it's obviously not a fact, but I am of the opinion based on discussions I had with him that he's been monitored since. That his test scores, every test they probably did on him, he was off the charts and they wanted to make sure that he was being watched. That's my theory in general on all kids that are in extraordinary and GATE type programs. Maybe we should be training our kids to get like an 85% on the test. Most before the government agents started swooping and go, who's this genius child, And a lot of weird things used to happen to Charlie. He would go on runs. I think I told you guys this after sundown, and when he was running, street lights would go out. It was like he was a burst of energy, like he was a lightning bolt or something. So just slow this down for you. There are, just in general, all of these inexplicable experiences that we have in life, and they try to make it weird for us to discuss them. Like just even being philosophical and thinking about these things for a long time, they don't want that. Deja vu is probably chief among them. We all have experienced deja vu. All kids that are in extraordinary and GATE type programs, maybe we should be training our kids to the year 2000, and they were just kind of pumping all this fear into us. Anyway, let's jump right into this clip.
Let's start with Y2K. In the final months of 1999, there was a global concern that computer systems would fail when the date switched to the year 2000. All the software used only 2 digits to record years, so 2 nils might be read as 1900, potentially disrupting banks, credit cards, and ATMs.
They ceased to function.
What
Power
is
grids, airlines,
that?
airplanes, and trains may come to a halt.
Governments and corporations spent over $300 billion updating systems. It was one of the largest coordinated tech efforts in history. People stocked food, withdrew cash, and prepared for the worst. But when midnight came, almost nothing happened. The systems held, the world moved on. Still, that global moment left an imprint. Some view it as a psychological turning point, the end of the analog age and the quiet beginning of a fully digital world. From that point on, life accelerated. Culture, communication, and consciousness shifted onto screens, fast, constant, and increasingly disconnected from physical time. Some researchers believe Y2K wasn't about a bug at all, but a kind of global psychological
Okay, let's pause this babbling on and let me just respond by saying that. So yes, I remember that time. I was working in a bar at that time called Yesteryear's Good Time Pub. It was a karaoke bar. We called it Scarioke, whatever, right? So it was a big concern at that time, but people were already ahead of it. Developers, computer geniuses, all of that. So while what this person is saying, whatever may be true, I don't know. I do know that, when they discovered, hey, this could be a problem, but I believe they were thinking that far into the future, way ahead when they were coming out with this technology, because it's always posing questions, right? And remember, I think Candace Owens is a flat earth theorist, as well as the NASA landing or the moon landing was fake, in her opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section. All right, let's keep going. And yes, I have sped it up.
reset, a ritual of fear, distraction, and silence. Code may not have crashed, but something else may have been triggered. Our perception of time and reality. After something strange started happening online, people began noticing memories that didn't match reality. The most famous, the Berenstain Bears.
Oh, please. Okay, so let's remind everyone, and I'm just going to pose this theory of my own. He's going to go on to talk about the Mandela effect, right? And the Mandela effect is supposed, some uniform governmental effort to wipe our memories, whether it be from our government, aliens, time travelers, whatever it is, right? So first, I would like to know where Jesus plays in all of this. All of these theories that she's spinning out, Christ is king, yet where does Jesus play into all of this, right? And if we look to our Savior, Jesus Christ, God, Abba, the Father, if we look to him in ultimate faith, what does all that matter anyway? So what I would pose is that anytime someone rebrands, sells their brand, whatever, I'll use my husband's company, for example, Sherwin-Williams, right? He originally started working for a company called Duron Paints. If you guys remember the movie Unbreakable with Bruce Willis, it was the paint cans that he was weightlifting in his basement. So Duron Paints was acquired by Sherwin-Williams, and sometimes bigger corporations will maybe have good intention to keep another brand that they acquire around, but they're seeking to stamp out their competition. So with Duron Paints, they basically killed the brand. So nobody to this day probably recalls what Duron Paints was. I hope they do. So then Rusty was working for Sherwin-Williams. Well, then he stopped working for Sherwin-Williams. That's a long story and a whole nother talk show in itself, and went to work for Valspar a few years, over a decade later. Valspar was acquired by Sherwin-Williams, yet they keep that brand alive because they were one of the competitors of Lowe's Home Improvement Paints. Now Sherwin-Williams has acquired Valspar, and they are the signature paint and the only paint that you can get at Lowe's Home Improvement. Olympic is not in there anymore, nor any other competitor from a competing brand. So with that said, so it would be absolutely logical that they would change things. Now, about our memories, of course they would wipe things. So why is that such a big conspiracy theory? I understand what people are saying, but maybe ask more questions, and maybe we're not asking the right questions or putting the right prompts into our AI, ChatGPTs, Groks, whatever. All right, let's continue on.
Millions remember it as Berenstain with an E, but every book says Berenstain with an A, and that's just the beginning.
If you're running a simulation and you go back and you change some variables and you rerun the simulation, lots of little things could be different along the way, right? You have many different possible paths.
It glitches the matrix.
Exactly. You're now in this timeline, but you remember. You have like a deja vu, or you have like a weird memory.
Movie quotes, logos, product names, all different than we remember. Entire groups of people swearing something changed with no explanation. It became known as the Mandela effect, named after people who remembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison years before he actually did. What could cause something like this?
Are you familiar with the Mandela effect? Yeah. Millions of people remember certain events that never happened. And so how do you explain that? As we go through our conscious progression, as we raise consciousness, the way we perceive the world, and therefore all that will exist in our...
I'll ask again. Where is our faith in Jesus Christ in all of this? And how does this tie in biblically, right? If we're proclaiming and purporting that we are followers of the way of Jesus Christ, I'm not understanding why we're looking to man to explain certain things to us, right? And does it really matter? Does any of this truly matter? I don't know. I can't answer that for you.
World will morph to that new resonance as a sympathetic resonance. So certain aspects of the old world will just no longer exist. And so we can still have a phantom memory of those experiences, whether it's like Jiffy peanut butter or Luke, I am your father, but she never said that, right? All these things like that literally just like fall out of your new frequency because everything in your world around you, including time itself, is retrocausal. The world around you that is no longer fitting your frequency will disintegrate and dissolve.
Okay, so I'm not trying to start a world war in the comment section today, but Pikachu had.
Or maybe it's like playing the game operator, right? You get a group of 10 to 20 people, you whisper a sentence in someone's ear and Luke Skywalker took orange juice to the store to swap it out for milk, and it pissed Darth Vader off. Well, do you think that would come around and all people can do is repeat what they hear? But usually by the end, the operators have butchered the whole sentence, right? I don't know. We could play a game of that. I don't know how we do it in the virtual world. But anyway, let's keep going. Alrighty.
Black at the end of his tail. Obviously, I don't know when they hit delete on that button, but he definitely had black at the end of his tail. Some of these things just don't make any sense to me, and it's just amazing that we just sort of accept it and we just keep moving on. And we start asking questions, they try to paint you with, no, don't ask a question, just keep going on. Let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that, there was no cornucopia. Anyways, this brings us obviously to the CIA's project Looking Glass. Essentially, there were these whistleblowers, like I told you, in the military and within the CIA apparatus that came forward to reveal that the deep state had a technology, which they stole, of course. Please do not miss the part that I keep explaining to you. These people are not smarter than you. They're just more evil. They steal, they plunder, and they steal things, and then they rewrite history and pretend that they were geniuses. Anyways, they have a knack for murder. They have a knack for theft. And this time, just like a lot of times before, they stole a device from the ancient Sumerian civilization that's located in modern day Iraq. Very advanced civilization. They're obsessed also with Egyptian civilization, as we discussed yesterday. The Satanists kind of taking and reintroducing these things. First, they keep them to themselves. They hoard these things, and then they kind of give us certain aspects of technology as time goes on. So they steal this piece of technology, and they incorporate it into a computer.
I'm sorry. You guys, please answer this for me. Let me know if you know in the comment section where Jesus comes into play with any of this, right? I'm not sure.
I am as ignorant as you.
And suddenly they're apparently able to predict future outcomes. Just imagine the deep state being able to look into a glass, so to speak. The Sumerian culture was known for their advancement in glass, and to see different outcomes. I mean, the amount of power that you would have, and then also fathom in your mind that the people that are Satanists have this power. Take a listen.
Well, before we even think about taking a listen, right? I might take a listen. It may make it in this video. It may not. Let's consider this. So when she talks about having the ability to look into a looking glass, I think we all have that ability, right? But is it as major, right? So in the Christian Holy Bible, she purports and claims herself to be Christian, so we would direct ourselves to the Bible. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, which chapter 13 has to absolutely ultimately come first, right? And I'm not sure that Candace is displaying all of that. So chapter 12 is our spiritual gifts. So when we all come together, it is a collective thing, an equal thing, many parts, one body. And if the many parts are not in agreement, what does that say about the body? Not everyone can be the eye, not everyone can be the ear, but we have to come together and be in agreement. Same goes with speaking in tongues. I've heard people, do the gibberish thing, and until I'm able to interpret it, or there's someone in the room that can interpret it, that's exactly what it is gibberish. So then I think people overthink the term tongue, right? Tongue is nothing but a different language, right? And so do we understand each other? So what she's talking about, I say we inspect, what she's bringing forth, and how does this tie in biblically? Because if it doesn't tie in biblically, it can't be tied in biblically. And already she's starting to attack fellow Christians. She's starting to denounce the written words, certain Bible translations. And I'll say it again. We read chronologically from 3 various translations. We include non-canonical books. At the end of the day, what does it ultimately change, right? Does Candace perceive herself to be some ultimate, authority that's going to ultimately change things? And I'll remind everyone, God doesn't need us. God does not need us. We need God. All right, let's continue on. This is where we stop chasing vibes and start reviewing records. Miss Owens, Candace, you ask questions. Now we're answering them with inspection standards. Question 1. What exactly are you claiming happened? Not implying, not suggesting. Claim it clearly. Speak it plainly. What evidence exists right now that supports that claim? Not promised evidence, not future evidence, actual evidence. Question 3, does this claim contradict anything you've said before? And if so, which version are we supposed to believe? Question 4, who is being accused directly or indirectly by this narrative? Because accusations have consequences, whether you whisper them or shout them. Question 5, what would falsify your theory? Because if nothing can disprove it, it's not an investigation, it's a belief system. Investigators ask questions, inspectors demand answers. Going to actually end up off of the editing room floor. I'm about to cut this video right here, but let's bring it back to normal and see what she's saying right now.
Kill him. We can't have this. This is not something that we are prepared to happen. That outcome of Charlie unleashed, so to speak. And ironically, that seems to be the very thing, his assassination, that catalyzed what they feared most, losing control of Charlie. That's exactly what happened.
And who is they? You guys, please tell me if you know who they is. And she keeps referring to the deep state. And where are these packages she had delivered?
Example, even unrelatedly, but the Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron, they filed a lawsuit. We have so much power. What are we going to do to stop this thing? She's getting into the story, is getting to the heart of evil and how the world is run.
See how the Lord's choking her up.
To figure out that Brigitte was born a man. What are we going to do? We're going to file a lawsuit. A lawsuit.
Rightfully so.
Filing was a mistake. Obviously, it was globally consequential, right? They wanted to stop it, and yet they spread.
Listen to how her voice glitches out. Listen, she's nervous. She is nervous. Let me get that. I'm going to have to screenshot that facial expression. It's going to go nicely. Oh, yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Credit. Catastrophic to their aims. The more pressure they exert toward control, the more they spin out of it. Another example, lock them down at home. Make them wear a mask, right? Create COVID in a lab, make everybody sick, force them to get the jab. Evil is really fun that way until it accidentally awakens the entire world to how fraudulent Big Pharma is. Like, is this now everyone's, is this just a factory of poison? Are they so evil? Have we just giving our bodies over to quote unquote science? Now, going back to Looking Glass and them shutting down this project and not being able to edit whatever it was, we obviously cannot know for certain what it is they saw when they peered through into this Looking Glass. But I do have a general sense that they're trying to edit its inevitability with ill-guided lawfare and warfare. And what I think is that our collective awareness is a threat. I think everybody peeking their heads up is making them increasingly more frantic. It's like they know we're barreling toward some foregone conclusion, and they have spent decades trying to stop that, trying to prevent that. And when I think about what it is, right, I just consider their general obsessions and their general triggers. They are positively obsessed with the Antichrist. I mean, like people like Peter Thiel, he's like going around giving.
What is she even talking about? Let me slow this down. She said they are obsessed with the Antichrist, yet she's the one spouting everybody's evil, this person's evil, that's evil, blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. Okay.
Interviews asking about the Antichrist. That's kind of the entire drift, by the way, of the AI world. When I say I look at these people, I don't like their eyes. something disturbs me, they mock that, take me out of a clip. Oh my gosh, I don't care.
So
I have spiritual discernment. Something about the entire AI movement feels wrong. And come on, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Would it
Sam Altman, all
matter?
of them. And they are, no, you can trust us. It's like they want us all to become automated so that we can be more easily controlled. Okay, we can't control the outcomes. Let's just control where we're at. Let's control every single person in the world and make everything AI. So that if we want to, they won't discover history. We can just delete files entirely. Nobody will be reading books anymore. The kids will be stupid. We can just wipe history, an entire civilization with the push of a button. There'll be no more books. Maybe I could say this in simply obsessed with trying to make everyone turn against Christ, and that push over the last couple of years, Christ is king is hateful. You shouldn't even be saying that. Why? That's a weird triggering that no one expected. No one should say that. It's anti-Semitic, whatever. Reducing reports about Christ is king. Is that not just a waste of money? Why did they do that? Let me just revisit that. Why did they do that? They produced a report and brought in doctors to assert why Christ is king is wrong. That's weird, guys.
What is she talking
and
about?
That's a triggering, by the way, that has been going on for a long time. It's the very reason they set about removing the...
All you got to do is read your Bible, folks. Don't let somebody else read your Bible for you. Do not let someone else read your Bible for you. Let's see what else she's got. And then we got to close this out, guys. Oof.
One is following you.
Oh, good job, Daily Wire, by the way.
Julian Assange. It was Pompeo, right? Okay, you fact checked that before. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Tucker had exposed that. I think it was Mike Pompeo. I will correct that momentarily if I'm wrong. But anyways, they are just openly discussing how they need to edit history books. I was correct? Yeah, he discussed options to take out Assange just to make sure we're above bar there. Anyways, he is sitting down and discussing how in the future they're just going to have to edit out textbooks for kids that are in school, the part about how they murdered tens and thousands of Palestinian women and children and innocent men because it's just not good for their aims. Here's him in his own words. Take a listen.
The next generation of young people won't remember October 7th in the same way. That's true in Israel and in America and broadly in the world. And we need to make sure two things. One, it's not that we don't forget. We need to make sure that the story is told properly so that when the history books write this, they don't write about the victims of Gaza, right? They can't. And I should be a little more precise. There were victims in Gaza, right? It's true. There are civilian casualties in every war that's ever been fought. But the victims were the people of the nation state of Israel. The aggressor was the Iranian regime in the proxy of Hamas. And we need to make sure that the history book...
What I want to say, guys, is be optimistic, be positive. If our thoughts can translate into the future, obviously, I think if they saw us at the end, we win. Of course we win. Goodness wins in the end. And I feel sad people that don't know that and are siding with evil, just thinking, yeah, who's going to win? They don't got this thing, guys. They don't got this thing anymore. The awakening is upon us, so to speak. If you'd like to support our independent work, we have new merch on the website. You can also join me in having this Conspiracy Girl mug. I don't think any of this stuff is conspiracy. I think it's just fact. And they've been editing all of our history. And now we're going to kind of learn a lot about what's been hidden, really. We also, if you'd like to buy the hard copy autographed bundle, it's now available on the shop as well. Make 'em a Sandwich and Blackout, both hand signed by me. And we also have channels in Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Links in the description below.